cheese.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos.
Paying his bills. Now, Kenneth, he's a former screenwriter with some severe mental health issues. And allegedly, Helen and Olga lure him in with some kind of screenwriting deal or promises of a screenwriting deal because Kenneth believes he's working for their production company, writing on some sort of like TV or film project. I don't know, it's whatever lie they told this poor guy. And so they get him to agree to fill out a life insurance policy as an act of good faith. They also get another rubber stamp, this time of Kenneth's signature. And using this, they take out a total of 18 life insurance policies on this guy, worth around $5 million. And so after that, they wait a while so that these policies can settle and, so that they don't look suspicious. And then, finally, one day, they're ready to unalive Kenneth. So one night, they get him really high on sedatives and alcohol, just like they did with Paul. Then they put him in their car and they drive him to a secluded back alley and they push him out. And I guess he's just like lying there on the ground, and they put his bike next to him because I guess he has a bike. And they stage it to make it look like he was in the alley fixing his bike when some random driver just came along and accidentally hit him. So then they get back in their car and boom, they run him over twice. And this, of course, unfortunately, unalives him. And so their devious plan worked again. He's gone. And all these ladies have to do now is wait for their insurance money. So it looks like they've now gotten away with this scam a second time. Until... Here's the thing about all this. Helen and Olga, they took out a lot of insurance policies on their victim this time. Apparently 18 total. Now before, they waited 2 full years between when they took the policies out and when they unalived their victim so as not to look suspicious. And they did the same thing this time. They waited 2 full years on all the policies, except for one policy. They go to cash in one policy and it's just under the 2-year mark. And apparently, life insurance claims that are cashed in under 2 years, they can be investigated for any reason. And that is where this guy steps in. We'll just call him Agent. An agent, he works for the insurance company, and he opens an investigation into all this. And so agent, he starts looking into it, and he notices that some of these things aren't adding up. Like the bike tire Kenneth was allegedly fixing wasn't actually flat. So why was he fixing it? Plus, there's oil all over all his clothes, like someone drove over him slowly rather than crashing into him and knocking him to the side, like, what you would suspect would normally happen. Just little stuff like that. And so Agent reaches out to Helen and Olga, and he tries to set up a meeting with them, but they won't talk to him at all. I mean, they're acting real shady. And so Agent, he starts realizing that this claim of theirs, it isn't real. And so he reaches out to the police to get their take on it. And he starts explaining all this to one of the officers about how a homeless guy was run over by a car, and coincidentally, one of the officers there remembers a similar case from years before, where a homeless guy had been run over by a car. Paul's case. And so immediately, Agent cancels Helen and Olga's life insurance policies. Meanwhile, Helen and Olga, they're pissed that their policies were canceled. I mean, all that hard work went to waste? And so they decide to try again. They go out and they find yet another homeless guy. And soon enough, Olga is filling out paperwork with this new guy, but this time the police are on to them. And so, bam, they arrest Olga. Here's her mugshot. Also, bam, they arrest Helen. Here's her mugshot. And they both go to trial, and they are both found guilty, and they both get life in prison. So this flight attendant pretends to have cancer in order to con people out of their money. Now, the flight attendant's name is Glenn, and Glenn is 24, living in England, and he's, a flight attendant with British Airways, but I guess this job just isn't paying enough. And bro wants to live a luxurious lifestyle. So one day in the year 2000, he comes up with a way to make a bunch of money. He creates this investment scheme where he cons people into investing money into British Airways through him. However, he doesn't really invest their money. Instead, he just puts it straight into his pocket. And he cons a bunch of people he knows this way, and he makes a ton of money. And he spends it, mostly on traveling around, like he takes his friends on nice vacations, he goes to the Bahamas, he goes to Portugal, he goes to Paris a bunch of times. Now, that's great for him and all, but when you con people into investing their money, eventually they're gonna want a return on that investment, and they're gonna come asking you about it. And Glenn obviously isn't gonna have that money because he spent it all. So when those people start calling, he's gotta come up with a new plan. And this time, he plans to pretend that he suddenly has a severe brain tumor and that he's dying. Not only that, but that he needs people to donate money to him so that he can get treatment. And so he gets to work on this terrible plan, and he starts researching and he's reading up about brain tumors in medical textbooks, and he shaves his head so that he looks the part. And once he's all ready to go, he quits his job at British Airways and he tells them he has cancer, and he starts announcing it to everyone he knows. He's like, I have a serious brain tumor. And not just that, he pretends he's having seizures, and he puts fake blood on himself sometimes to really sell the idea that he's sick. And of course, his friends and family, they're all devastated, and they're not just gonna let him suffer with no treatment, so they start donating all this money to him. And he even goes as far as to start doing raffles and fundraising events so that he can raise even more money for his fake tumor. Now, what is this con man doing with all this money? Same thing he was doing before. He's spending it on himself. He's taking a bunch of nice vacations to a bunch of places where he's pretending to get treatment. So I guess he's I gotta go get cancer treatment on the beach in the Bahamas. And I guess people believe him. And so he's traveling around to Florida and Denver and Las Vegas and Australia, and he's having a great time. Not only that, he's so arrogant about all this that he's even taking friends with him on these trips, but he's such a con man that they don't even know that he's not really there getting treatment. So over the next 14 months, he takes 11 vacations, which is almost one big vacation a month. And he's also setting up businesses on the side, including a hair salon and some kind of business that gives out loans. But then, at one point in 2001, this con starts to fall apart because he's trying to set up one of these fundraising events for himself at this social club. And so he's at this social club and he's telling the staff this sob story about his medical condition. And he's talking and he mentions that he had 2 chemotherapy sessions in one day, which anyone familiar with chemo knows that that's just not a thing. And so some people on this staff, they start thinking, oh, I think this guy might be full of shit. And so they start looking into his credentials, and he had apparently given them a letter from a doctor proving that he has brain cancer, but of course this letter is actually fake, and the doctor doesn't exist. While one of the other people he's trying to talk to about this event is a woman who he wants to host it for him. And he's telling her his sob story, and for some stupid reason, he ends up telling her this weird lie that British Airways has a jet on 24-hour standby for me to fly to get experimental treatment whenever I need it. Now, along with working at the social club, this woman also happens to work for British Airways. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit. And so this woman goes to her bosses at the social club, and she tells them that Glenn is a fraud and that this is all a scam. And so they call the police, and the next day, bam, Glenn gets arrested. And he gets sent to prison, and now we'll never hear from him again, and he'll never commit another crime ever again. Until... No. This all gets much worse. Because after a few years in prison, he finally gets out. It's now 2006, and he's probably like 30 years old at this point. And Glenn is having money problems. And so he gets on the internet and he starts cruising through gay chat dating websites. He's looking for someone to con. And he's gay, by the way. And eventually he meets this guy, who we'll call McDonald. And Glenn and McDonald, they start chatting and they hit it off, and McDonald thinks he is fine. And they start planning to meet up. Here's the thing about McDonald, though. McDonald is actually married to a woman, and they have 3 kids together. So he's actually in the closet and he's hiding his real sexuality from his wife. And one day, McDonald, he's on the phone with Glenn and they're chatting. And McDonald's wife, she overhears him planning a romantic weekend getaway with this guy that she doesn't know. And so she gets pissed and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm gay." I actually don't know what he really said to her, but I do know that she gets extremely pissed off at him and she leaves him. And so now McDonald, he's free to go live the lifestyle that he actually wants to live. And so he moves out of their home and he moves all the way to Wales to go live with Glenn, the con artist. And things are going pretty well for them for a while. And Glenn is somehow spending all sorts of money on McDonald. No idea how he got that money, probably conned someone. But that doesn't last long, because pretty quickly, Glenn runs out of money. And McDonald ends up being the one paying for everything and spending all his money on Glenn. And I guess behind his back, Glenn ends up figuring out a way to scam McDonald out of a bunch of his money. Because one day, Glenn is out trying to buy some stuff, and boom, his card is suddenly declined. And so he checks and he finds that his account has been completely emptied. And he's like, what the fuck? And of course, he suspects Glenn, because, that's the only person it could have been. Meanwhile, Glenn, he probably knows that McDonald suspects that he stole from him. Because here is where shit gets really dark. One day, Glenn gets online and he starts looking for ways to unalive someone. And eventually, he comes up with a plan to unalive McDonald. First, he gets him to come along with him on a little road trip to visit some relatives. Then he pretends to get them lost so that they're in the middle of nowhere and they have to stay at this cheap hotel. And while they're staying at this hotel, Glenn, he grabs a fire extinguisher that's there in the room, and suddenly, pow, he hits McDonald with it, and he beats him over and over again until he's unalived. Then he leaves the hotel for a short while, and he comes back, and he goes to the room, and he pretends that he just found McDonald there, and he starts acting all shocked. And he runs to the hotel lobby, and he tells them to call the police because his boyfriend was just attacked. And police come out, and I guess they immediately don't believe his story because, bam, they arrest him. And I don't have a mugshot, but I do have this picture of him in real life. And so ultimately, Glenn goes to trial, and he's found guilty, and he gets sentenced to life in prison. And a huge shout out to Leonardo.ai for sponsoring this video. If you want to make really cool art for your videos or just for your life, like this or like this, then sign up for Leonardo.ai. So this guy, let's call him Frenchie, because he's super French. And Frenchie is about to con people out of $40 million. Now Frenchie, he's kind of a turd. He's been in and out of jail for petty theft, forgery, counterfeiting, but Frenchie's also one charming motherfucker. Like, he can talk anyone into anything. And one day, he decides that instead of petty theft, he's gonna go for a really big score. And now, his girlfriend has a rich father who owns a high-end townhouse in Paris. And so Frenchie, he creates a fake property deed for this building in Paris that he doesn't own, and he tries to sell it for $1.4 million. Oh, but he doesn't stop there. He continues this string of crimes, and sometime later, he successfully robs a jewelry store. And lucky for him, he doesn't actually get caught for this robbery. But now he's a wanted man. So he decides to flee France, and he goes to the place where he can make some serious money, the United States. And once he's there, he goes to Los Angeles, where he starts making lots of friends in the nightlife scene. Because, like I said, he's a charming guy. Now, he doesn't tell anyone he meets that he's just a regular turd who's wanting for robbing a jewelry store in Europe. Instead, he always lies to them and says he's related to someone successful and famous. Like, he tells people he's Dino De Laurentiis' nephew, he's a famous movie producer, or he'll tell them he's Oscar De La Renta's nephew. Oscar De La Renta is a famous fashion designer. And as absurd as that is, this works, and people believe him, and they love Frenchie. They find him so interesting. And soon enough, he finds himself becoming friends with actual famous people like Mickey Rourke and Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's trying to do a business deal with Michael Jackson's brother, Jermaine Jackson. Now, as cool as that is, Frenchie is a con man at heart, so he has to start really scamming people to pay his bills and keep up this big lifestyle. And he makes a lot of money from this scam. His scam works like this. He takes some unsuspecting sucker out for dinner and champagne at expensive restaurants, and he picks up the tab, which gives that person the impression that Frenchie is already rich and that he would never scam you. Then he'll offer this person an investment opportunity, like, you should invest in the clothing store I'm about to open. And of course, the people invest because they trust him, because they already think he's the rich nephew of someone famous. And so Frenchie cons a lot of people this way. And by the way, I'm skipping over a lot in this story because he committed so many crimes and ripped off so many people, I couldn't possibly fit it all in one video. Anyway, eventually he gets reported for some of these crimes, and police catch on, and boom, he gets arrested. But his arrest doesn't last long, because he gets out on bail, and the day before he's supposed to go on trial, he flees town, and he heads from Los Angeles all the way over to the Hamptons in New York. And there, he starts making lots of friends again in the social scene, because, like I said, he's a charming motherfucker. And so he invents another backstory to tell these people. He tells them that he's a Rockefeller, one of the richest families in US history. So he makes all these new friends, and now he has access to all the best parties with rich people in the Hamptons. And so he starts conning people all over again. And he takes these people out for these big impressive dinners and these fancy places, and he starts talking about investments, and everybody wants to hear investment tips from a Rockefeller. And so again, this con works like magic. He gets one woman to invest $14,000, another couple to invest $50,000 with him, another woman to invest $25,000, and he cons a real estate agent out of $100,000. And all these poor suckers, they think they're gonna make a ton of money after Frenchie invests for them. But, spoiler alert, he just ends up keeping their money. And of course, he uses it to continue living this insane, lavish lifestyle he lives. And it seems like bro is never gonna get caught. Until. So here's the thing about Frenchie. He likes to flex, like he likes to feel rich. And so he tells all his Hamptons friends that he lives in this big mansion on the fanciest street in town. But in reality, he doesn't. He's living out of a local bed and breakfast. Now, at this bed and breakfast, he hasn't been paying his bill. And eventually, the bill builds up to around $19,000. $19,000? What kind of bed and breakfast is this? And so the owners of this bed and breakfast, they get tired of Frenchie's excuses, and one day they report him to the police. And so, bam, police arrest him again. Here's his mugshot. And so Frenchie gives police a fake name. Police arrest him again. Here's his mugshot. And so Frenchie gives police a fake name and a fake ID, and he's able to post bail the next day. And at this point in the story, police have no idea he's a wanted criminal. They just think he's a guy who didn't pay his hotel bill. So Frenchie takes advantage of this, and he immediately flees the Hamptons and goes north all the way to Canada. Meanwhile, in Canada, Frenchie starts conning people there too. He tells people he's a famous Formula One driver for Ferrari, and people believe him. But then he screws up big, and he messes with the wrong ones. Because after 8 months of living in Canada, he befriends this older businessman and his wife. And he bullshits them, and he tells them he's this famous race car driver for Ferrari. And they're all impressed. They're like, oh, cool. And Frenchie convinces them to invest $150,000 into some fake business venture he invented. But they eventually realize it's a con and they report him to Canadian police. And so, boom, once again, he gets arrested. And Frenchie spends a year in Canadian prison before he has to return back to the US, where he pleads guilty to his crimes and he's sentenced to 3 years, 10 months in US prison. But, story's still going. Because while he's in prison, Frenchie writes an autobiography where he talks about his crimes, which becomes a bestseller back in France. And by the way, in this book, he actually makes fun of his victims. He basically mocks them and calls them stupid for believing him. It's very French of him. Anyway, when he gets out of prison, he goes back to France, and he's kind of a celebrity there. He signs a book deal to write a second book, and he sells his name for use in a clothing line, Rocancourt Jeans. Rocancourt is his last name. And eventually, he befriends this French film director, this woman, Catherine. And Catherine is fascinated by Frenchie's story, and she finds him charming as fuck. And so she wants to give him a second chance at life, and she casts him as the lead in a feature film she's making. A feature film starring Naomi Campbell. And here's a picture of Frenchie and Naomi Campbell on the red carpet. And so Catherine and Frenchie, they start spending lots of time together, and they become friends, and eventually he starts asking her to borrow money. And then he asks her for a little more, and then a little more, and unfortunately for Catherine, pretty quickly, Frenchie ends up conning her out of 700,000 euros, or about 760,000 US dollars. And because he cons her, the movie project is suddenly canceled. But then Catherine ends up writing another film. She ends up making a semi-autobiographical movie about getting conned by Frenchie. And that movie about getting conned by Frenchie apparently does well and gets really good reviews. So good for her. But anyway, Frenchie eventually gets convicted for conning her, and he gets sentenced to 16 months in prison. And it's estimated that in total, over the years, he conned people out of $40 million. Wow. Here's what he looks like in real life. So this teenage kid, he commits so many crimes that he's about to run from police for years, steal a plane, and escape to another country. Now his name's Colton, and he's only 12, and his life sucks. He lives in a small trailer in the woods on a little island off the coast of Washington. And his mom is an addict, and so he mostly has to take care of himself. So he spends most his days in the woods, alone, reading about airplanes, because one day he wants to be a pilot. Now eventually he starts breaking into neighboring houses, stealing things, mostly food, but over time he starts stealing other things, a laptop and credit cards. And interestingly, he often doesn't wear shoes for some reason. He does most of this barefoot. And so this barefoot kid is always in and out of trouble. And one day, he doesn't show up for a mandatory court date, and bam, the police start looking for him. And Colton learns they're looking for him, and so he hides out in the woods for like 6 months. He finds vacation homes, and he breaks into those, and he sleeps there, or he'll steal food and camping supplies, and he'll sleep out in the forest. But then, eventually, boom, police catch him. And they convict him, and he's sentenced to 3 years in juvenile detention. And of course, Colton hates being locked up. He can't ever be a pilot while he's in detention. So a little over a year later, he sneaks out an unlocked window and he escapes. So now he's on the run again, and he goes back to the area where he used to live, and he starts sleeping in the woods and breaking into vacation homes again. So he's constantly on the move and stealing things like food and supplies and cars. And this goes on for months before finally police close in on him. One day he's driving a Mercedes he had stolen, and they spot him because he's driving like an asshole, and they go to pull him over in a parking lot, and he jumps out of the car while it's still moving, and he takes off and runs into the woods. And so police search the car, and they find a backpack he had stolen and a digital camera he had stolen. And on that camera, they find this selfie he took. Then Colton steals a boat, and he drives it. He's hauling ass and getting away. Kaboom! He high centers his boat on a sandbar. He is stuck. And as he's trying to unstick his ride, of course, police roll right up on him. And they open fire on his boat, taking out his engine. And there is where Colton, the barefoot bandit, finally surrenders. So then, bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And Colton gets charged with all kinds of stuff, and ultimately he gets sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. Oh, but here's the best part. Apparently Colton's story is so interesting, he's able to sell the movie rights to his life to 20th Century Fox for a whopping $1.3 million. But unfortunately, as part of the punishment for all his crimes, the court ordered that he's not allowed to profit from his story. So he doesn't get to keep any of that money. All of it has to go to pay back his victims, the people he stole from. And apparently he's out of prison now, he served his time, and he just works a regular job, so good for him. So one morning, this woman is in the driveway and she's beating up her boyfriend. Now the woman, her name's Alicia. She's 34, she's from Wisconsin, and she used to be a military police officer. Now Alicia has a boyfriend, who we'll just call boyfriend. And that morning, I guess they get into a fight, and Alicia starts to get violent. And he's in the driveway, and she picks up some rocks, and she sticks them between her fingers like they're brass knuckles, and she starts trying to punch him. And I guess she also starts threatening to unalive his whole family. And this is allegedly not the first time she's threatened to do this. But here's the thing about Alicia. She's a mom of 3 little kids, and she and the 3 little kids are all living at boyfriend's house right now. But she's been acting nutty for so long, at this point, boyfriend, he's scared of her. So I guess after the fight, he low-key calls Alicia's kids' fathers. Both of them, because there's more than one. And he tells them that she's crazy and that he's worried about those kids. So each of the kids' fathers, separately, they call the police. And they're like, Alicia's crazy. Go over there and take my kids away from her. Meanwhile, I guess, Alicia, boyfriend, and the kids, they all had plans to take the boat out on the lake for the day. So they all go out to the lake. And eventually, police show up. And they're looking to take Alicia's kids.
Sit down and talk. I'm telling you to sit down and talk right now.
My lawyer said that I get them until the date that is on my phone.
And so Alicia calls her lawyer.
I'm calling my lawyer.
That's fine. But we're going to take the kids
No, you're
now.
not.
Yes, we are.
No, you're not. I'm supposed to let my kids go to these random cops to show up on a phone?
Lisa, stop.
But here's a picture of her in real life. I guess this is from her. Arrest her. And I away from the and kicking them, and here's another screenshot, and here's another. But then, in the most satisfying moment of this whole thing, pow! The officer tases the shit out of her. Here's the satisfying moment of this whole thing, pow! And here's another. But then, in the most satisfying moment of this whole thing, pow! The officer tases the shit out of her. Here's a screenshot of her getting tased. Yeah, go ahead and laugh at her, it's okay. And like, yeah, I know I clowned on her a lot in this video, which I try not to do too much of because, look, one, it's a little mean, and two, people commit crimes for all kinds of reasons that I'll never understand, and I won't pretend to understand what motivates people to do some of the things they do. But I just want to point this out. She must have messed up really bad when both of her baby's daddies and her current boyfriend all got together and secretly called the police on her. They were like, hey, let's put our differences aside and come together like the fucking Justice League and get Alicia away from these kids. But anyway, after all that, bam, they finally arrest her. And I don't have a mugshot, but here's a picture of her in real life. I guess this is from her time in the military. And she's charged with battery on an officer, disorderly conduct, and domestic abuse. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any updates on her after that. And as far as her 3 kids go, the officer who took them, he took them to get ice cream while they waited on another guardian to come pick them up.
Look what I got.
Oh, yum. All right, cool.
So, that's nice. I hope they're okay. And a huge shout out to Leonardo.ai for sponsoring this video. If you want to make really cool art for your videos or just for your life, like this or like this, then sign up for Leonardo.ai. So these turds, one day they're hanging out at the local mall, causing trouble and just being turds. Then, boom, they get kicked out. But they're not done messing around. So they go to a nearby Kroger and they all start causing a ruckus in there, being loud, breaking wine bottles, and just being awful. And at some point, the Kroger employees notice all this and they call the police. Minutes later, some police officers show up and they go to confront them, politely.
Y'all was breaking stuff, y'all done broke wine bottles. It's on camera, they done caught y'all breaking stuff. Where y'all parents?
So there's a little bit of back and forth between them and the officers tell them to leave the store. But these guys are just not taking this seriously.
Time to leave. Get up, man. Time to go. That way. Out. Out. Let's go. I'm not worried about you two. You can try that outside. Let's go.
Yeah, they have no respect for anyone. Like, one of the teens gets into it with this woman who looks like a customer on the way out.
You ain't working nowhere.
Let's go.
You ain't working nowhere.
Let's go. Time to go.
You ain't working nowhere.
Are you his parent?
I'm not his parent.
All right, then let's go.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Let's go.
Now, this kid in particular, we'll call him Little Brother. And Little Brother is the biggest problem here. He just isn't listening, and this is where things really start to go south.
I'm gonna put you in handcuffs in a minute. You understand that?
Close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
Out in the street, tacos. All you can eat, lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummy, yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummy, yum. Bring your sour cream.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos. It's raining tacos.
Excuse me?
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
Tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
Shell, meat, lettuce, cheese, shell, meat, lettuce, cheese, shell, meat, cheese.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos.
Lettuce, cheese,
It's raining tacos. Tacos.
He's gonna listen or he's gonna go in handcuffs. Now let's go.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
Shell, meat, lettuce, cheese, shell, meat, lettuce, cheese, shell, meat, cheese.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos. Raining tacos. Raining tacos.
Lettuce, cheese, shell,
It's raining tacos. Tacos. Thank you.